Welcome to episode 309 of the Board Game BBQ podcast, brought to you by the amazing Advent Games down in Sydney and our awesome Patreons who live all over the world, which is pretty crazy. But today we are going to be talking about board games. We're going to be talking about all kind of other shenanigans, and I am joined by my fellow Queenslander, Dana. Dana, how you doing?
Great, thanks, Adrian. You?
Very good, very good. Had a long weekend away with MJ's family, which was quite nice. It's been so hot here in Queensland, 34 degrees today.
Yeah, I'm sweating.
It was hot as. And also joined by Lauren down in New South Wales in Sydney. How you doing, Lauren?
Yeah, good, mate. I got a ripper sunburn today, though. You can't see it under this jumper, but it's been well hot here as well, and I am feeling tender.
Oh dear. In fact, I think we are the crew that were together last. I think when we were at my house, us three were together. I think we're the most recent Board Game BBQ group to be all in the same space at the same time.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Probably. I don't remember because I'd way too much to drink.
Oh, well, that's all good. That's no judgment here.
And Adrian, happy Father's Day.
Oh, thanks. That's really kind. We didn't remember this morning when we got up. No one did. So I think the only presents I got was Finn farting in the bed. That was basically the
that's
love.
Precious.
Yeah, he made it himself, so at least that's that, right? Like, it's homemade. Guys, how are things being done? We had the game day recently. I had a blast. How did you go at the game day?
It was brilliant. Fantastic. Had a ball. Everybody was so excited to be there, and I had people asking when the next one was so that they could put it in their calendar. Yeah. So it was awesome. People were there right until the end, right until midnight.
Yeah, and thanks to all those people that did stay till midnight, and also the people that just sort of decided they were going to help pack up and cart boxes to cars and stuff. We always really appreciate that. That's super kind that people kind of get involved and just be like, what do you need? We're like, we need 50 boxes carried to a car. And yeah, people all just get involved, and it's kind of nice at the end of the night.
It was really interesting. Didn't someone turn up at like 10 o'clock? I think
so, yeah.
Yeah, so there was one lady, I think, that turned up really late.
Yeah.
At like 10 o'clock, just came for a couple of hours.
Got to smash out a couple of games. I'm on a deadline.
Yeah.
That's a night owl if I've ever heard of one. My peak is like 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. After that, absolutely no bueno. It's not happening.
Yeah. I actually got to teach a game at Barrage as well, which I always love doing, and everybody enjoyed it and everyone was completely into it. So that's always fun. I think that's it must be my most taught game by a country mile. So I've got the teach down pretty well, so I can do it quite quickly. But it's kind of funny. I'm there teaching Barrage and kind of doing the library, and Dana's across the way from me in the More Than Meeples store. But it's like a creepy person skulking around because the games are so high, and her head like pops over the top and she's like scouts the room and then goes back down again, but doesn't say anything. Yeah. Doesn't even like say anything, just head up, looks around a bit.
Hey, buddy, want to buy a game?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. We were both pulling double duty.
Yeah. So that was awesome. And also a little bit of a story to tell you guys after the game day. Draven actually came up for the game day from Canberra, and I was like, I'll give you a lift to the airport. Don't worry about it. No stress. So we get in the car, and MJ's car didn't like my phone plugging into it because I was using the wrong cable. So I didn't use the sat nav, and it's like, it's fine. I know where the airport is. It's all good. No stress. Hop in. And I was like, we left it. So it was when you get to the airport, you have like 20 minutes time to sort of get in, and then you have that last hour before the flight. And I just started talking as I do. And we were driving, and I went across the bridge, across the gateway, and past the airport by a good 15 kilometers. And it was like, I realized, I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. We're going to the Gold Coast. We need to turn around.
That way. So you went the opposite way.
I went way past the airport. So I had to like go back round and turn around. And then the realization of time and pressure. And I was like, oh no, if Draven misses his flight, I'm going to have to buy him another flight because this is all my fault for jibber jabbering. And then we got to the airport, and all I could think was, like, he got out of the car, and I was like, sweet, see ya. And he's like, yeah, I've got an hour till my flight. And I'm like, oh my God, it's all my fault. And the thoughts running through my head as I was driving home, I was just waiting for that message to say, I can't get on the plane or something. And I was in a full panic mode. But luckily, he made the flight. But yeah, lessons were learned. Use the sat nav no matter what, because my brain doesn't function without it. Like, I was just in autopilot, excuse the pun, but yeah, sorry, Draven.
The amount of times I've gone on autopilot and just started driving to work when I've meant to be going somewhere else. You know what I mean? You just pop in the car. It's such a mindless activity and you're not thinking about it. Dana's looking at us like she's never done this before.
No, this happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
Don't you drive and then you get somewhere and you realise, how did I get there?
Oh, yeah.
I don't even remember the road getting there.
Yeah.
100%.
Did I hit a bird?
Yeah. I'm glad we all do it.
Yeah.
There must be some subconscious thing behind that, right, where we're just zoned out. But, you know, there's cars in front of us, so we're braking and slowing down and stuff. But
look, I could explain why it happens, because I do know what that's for a separate conversation. I want to hear about what you guys have been playing.
Well, we played a bunch of games together at my place, which was kind of fun. And I know that I missed out on telling a story about one of those games, so I'll let you take it away, Lauren, and explain what happened there.
Oh yeah, so we were playing the card game Stick'em, and this was in my recent trip to Brisbane. Dana, were you in that game as well? Yes.
Was I?
Yes, you were.
Maybe I started drinking.
I won't go into too much how Stick'em plays, but essentially there's different cards with numbers and colours.
I know what you're talking about.
I went to reveal a card. It was at the beginning of a round, wasn't it? And I don't know, out of nowhere, Adrian just turns to me and goes, "That's a red 3." And the quizzical look, and I flip it over, and it was the exact right card. And I go, "How on earth did you do that?" And he goes, "I don't know. I just felt it. I felt it. That was it."
Weird. Yeah, I definitely felt it. I was like, it feels like a red 3. I don't know why. I said it, and everyone's eyes like lit up and freaked out. And I was like, oh God. And then I tried it again later. I was like, blue 7. And it was like,
way off.
Way off. It's like yellow 1. And I was like, oh God, I've lost my powers.
By your head. But it was one of those little moments that you have in games that I feel like is just so memorable, had nothing to do with the game really, but just from the people at the table, that I feel like every time I play Stick'em now, I'm just going to try.
Red 3.
Yeah, red 3. It's got to be.
Every time. Just red 3 it and see what happens. Yeah, that was quite freaky and also quite fun.
But I've been playing a few little card games. A few that I've got to the table, like Stick'em. The other one that we played was Niet, which has been talked about heaps on the podcast, but it was my first time playing it ever. And what a game. I really loved the weird jostling for position on that central card where you get to decide what the trump is, how the game's going to shake out, tweaks to the rules. That is the entire game for me. It absolutely made it. Another little card game that I got to play was Forage, which recently arrived from the Orchid Grove Forage Kickstarter. So there's 3 little 9-card solitaire games, which I am absolutely rubbish at. I can't. Do you know how they give you the little table and it ranks what your solo score is in these games? I'm not even hitting the bottom one. Like it's bad. And the descriptors for my scores are so disparaging. It's like rotten fruit, all sorts of terrible things. The Forage was the newest one, and I got there's a little collector's box that I got for all 3 of them. And they play pretty similarly. So if you've played Orchid or Grove, it's not going to hugely change anything for you, revolutionize anything, but it's just a few little niggles and tweaks. But you can also print and play this game pretty cheaply for ages. I just had the print and play version with some sleeves and some of my role player dice for my copy of Orchid, and that did be fine. But that was Forage, which was a really lovely addition to that kind of little 9-card solitaire game does heaps with very little in the way of components, which I really liked.
Oh, nice. I've never heard of Forage actually before, so
No, I've heard of Grove, but I haven't heard of Forage or Orchid at all.
Yeah, they gave you a little kind of box to keep them all in. And I think a few
like
of our community members,
like a little mini shelf. Oh,
so little tuck boxes for them and a little kind of contained box to pop it on your shelf. So it's a really delightful little thing to own, which I really quite enjoy just looking at.
Yeah.
I haven't played any card games for a long time, actually, and I really am kind of aching to play more sort of not trick-taker card games. Do you know what I mean? And I know that the Res Arcana Duo got announced recently, and I also backed the Ether Stone, which is a card game with a closed drafting mechanic, and I'm really looking forward to playing some more.
They announced a Res Arcana 2-player.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That's an instant buy for me. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I'll probably buy it, granted, but
it's very good at 2 anyway. Like
yes,
the base game is great at 2.
100%.
Like the whole thing is great, but oh wow.
Yeah, there's a Res Arcana Duo coming, so that's pretty exciting, pretty cool.
Do you know if it has any changes to the gameplay, kind of like Splendor Jewel did for Splendor?
I actually
or is it
don't
kind of
know
a similar
anything.
game but condensed?
Yeah, I don't know anything about it other than
right.
Res Arcana Duo, and they've got the same artist working on it because the graphics and they all look very similar. But I'm pretty excited for it regardless, even though I think Res Arcana is optimum player count is 2. Like it plays so solid at 2.
Yeah.
But I would be interested to see if they're introducing different mechanics behind it, kind of like you said with the Splendid Jewel thing, where it just changes the game enough to make it interesting and still make you want to buy it. So
yeah, because we played Splendor Jewel together in Brisbane, and I was really pleasantly surprised by that. I really like Splendor to begin with, the original version, but the changes in Splendor Jewel were really, really good.
Yeah. It refreshes the whole game, right? It just makes it feel so fresh and so different. So it's a great 2-player game, Splendid Jewel. So I'd like to see
it's on BGA too now, right?
Yeah, it's on BGA. I played it on BGA. So
what is it about trends or fads? You know, like everything at the moment is coming out with the dual version. I think it was, some kind of Lord of the Rings. There was a Lord of the Rings duel that was announced recently with Vincent Dutrait art. Everything just seems to be a dual version or whatever.
Barrage duel.
Barrage duel, yes.
Yeah.
But there's just so many of them. And they all seem to clump together like all at once. I don't know what it is, but I think it's probably a good idea in terms of 2 players, because often games, they're either really good at 2 and not so good at a high play count, or they're not good at 2 and they're better at a high play count.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. They lose their tightness in a 2-player game. So you've got too much space to maneuver and do things. And even if they've introduced mechanics or blocking out spaces, it just is not the same effect as playing with 4 people. So I think that, having that duo or dual version can offer a lot if they introduce new mechanics to go along with it. So
yeah.
Yeah, there's also Quacks of Quedlinburg, a dual version coming out for that too.
Yeah, that was it. Yep.
There's plenty around, so that's for sure. Lauren, I would like to get some feedback on a game that we played together that I still really enjoy, and I know that you're a big Arkham fan. Now, we played Arkham Horror 3rd Edition all together, me, you, MJ, and James. How did you feel about that afterwards?
So it's an interesting experience because the game has a lot of rules, right? So does the card game, and also a lot of edge cases. I was lucky enough to have you, or James and I were lucky enough to have you and MJ kind of DM the experience for us, because we only really needed to know enough of the rules to know how our turns were going to work, what our actions were, and then a vague idea of the other stuff that was going on. But we didn't really need to involve ourselves too much because you and MJ dealt with all of the upkeep and all of the rules questions. So a part of me is thinking, would my experience have been different if I didn't have that? Because I really, really liked that experience of Arkham Horror 3rd Edition with you guys. But the whole time I've kind of been thinking, but if it was just James and I learning all the rules and sitting down to play it, how would we have gone? So I definitely feel like there's a high barrier to entry, which I think is also the case for the card game. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I really liked it. There was just something really a bit silly about it almost. Like it's not slapstick, that's the wrong word, but it's kind of just very Ameritrashy, very just get up and bash them and going around and whacking stuff and getting items, then getting better items to let you just absolutely nuke a Cthulhu monster off the board. Really kind of just all about fun, right?
Yeah,
The game's just
100%.
all about fun and all about story. There's lots and lots of little flavor text, which is different to the card game, because in the card game, there are these really long paragraphs of, exposition and then conclusion text that draws one really linear narrative kind of through the specific scenario. But in Arkham Horror 3rd Edition, it's more about all of these little snippets of flavor text here and there from this card and from this, newspaper article and from this item. So it builds story, but actually in quite a different way, rather than there is still the one narrative that runs through the scenario, but it feels like the story is more, the sum of lots of little parts rather than this one kind of specific story, which I really liked. It felt very different.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it.
It's a really interesting game. And to be honest, it's one of those games we kind of get out like annually or maybe like biannually, and we still play it. And whenever we play it, we enjoy it. But it's a slog. Do you know what I mean? To learn it from the rule book and that, it took us a while. And there's so many keywords and flavor texts and bits and bobs, which, you can get quite confused over at times. But it's still up there with one of my most sort of cinematic experiences in a board game with one of the particular bosses from an expansion. But yeah, it's just nice to see other people play it, because I think it's a very underrated game, and it doesn't get some of the attention that it deserved when it came out. But anyone that plays it has enjoyed it. I've never had someone go, it's not my cup of tea. Like, it's always been quite fun. So
I think it's because it's a bit obtuse, right? Like, it's this beast to get into. There's all of this content for it. It's a huge thing to set up and play. So it is an event game. And this kind of insurmountable thing. If you're trying to get into it and you're just people sitting down and one person has just learned how to play it, you might have a bad time.
Yeah. I'd say you will have a bad time.
And it's not a quick game either.
No.
So it might feel really confusing and really long. So I can definitely see people bouncing off it, or at the very least, maybe it's underrated because people have been hesitant to try it because of all of those things and that feedback. But I would say that if you have someone in your life that owns it and knows it really well, then you definitely should try it. And, boost up the theme, turn down the lights, play some music, light some candles, and immerse yourself in the narrative of it, because then you'll have a great time.
Have you ever played it, Dan, or have you played any of the sort of Arkham games?
Nothing like that at all. No.
Never ever, just not interested, or you just?
Look, I would play it, but I don't think it's something I would ever buy, and I don't think it's something that I could ever play with, my game group, which doesn't bother me because, we just have different tastes. And so I've never sought it out, but I would play it. I would quite happily play it, but I just haven't played it.
Yeah. I also think you might enjoy one of the one-shot scenarios for the card game, Dana. There's some, like the Murder Excelsior Hotel or the Blob That Ate Everything, that are just a bit unique and different, that if you have someone that can build the deck for you and give you the cards, that you'd really enjoy that. Yeah.
If I had to pick one of the scenarios for Dana, I think she would like Barkham Horror most.
Oh, yeah.
Did you say Barkham?
Yes.
Like as in dog?
Yeah, it's all dogs.
Oh, perfect.
We've spoken about this on the podcast before, but for anyone who doesn't know, it was released as an April Fool's, I believe, prank by Final Fantasy Flight, which is we're going to take Arkham Horror but make all the investigators dogs and call it Barkham Horror. But people loved it so much that they then released the pack, the booster pack that has those. I didn't buy it at the time, like an absolute idiot. And now you got to pay like $150 for it. It had the same effects that Bruce Lee had to Unmatched, is Arkham Horror to Arkham Horror, the card game. It's just crazy, ridiculous expensive to get now. So if someone does own that, then yeah, gosh darn it, you'd love to play a little dog investigator. I think Connor owns it.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Dana? What have you been playing recently or up to recently?
Well, I thought I would talk about a card game that I have been on the hunt for a while, and it's quite hard to get. It's called Parade by Z-Man Games. I'll show you a picture of it. You might recognise it. See? It's got beautiful
I do recognise
artwork.
it,
Yeah, Alice in Wonderland sort of theme. Now, I played this quite a few years ago now, and it just really grabbed me. The artwork is really, really beautiful. It's all, as I said, it's all Alice in Wonderland themed. So you've got, the Mad Hatter and the Cheshire Cat, and it's just gorgeous to look at. But it's actually designed by someone that I hadn't heard of, and I can't think of the name at the moment, but it's actually a Japanese designer. And it doesn't surprise me because it's not trick-taking, but I don't know what it is, but Japanese designers are fantastic at creating really great card games out of not very much. And so this game, it plays 2 to 6, and I must admit, I may have played it at 2, but I usually play it at the higher player counts, and it works really well. So the theme is you're holding a parade for the Queen of Hearts, and you've got 6 suits numbered 0 to 10, and you get dealt 5 cards, and then you put 6 down in it's called the parade, which is basically a line of cards. So on your turn, all you do is play a card from your hand, and then once you've played your card, you then pick up a card from the deck to refresh it. But unfortunately, the card that you play may cause other cards to walk off the parade, and these cards count as negative points at the end of the game. So the length of the parade in the line is quite important. So, for example, if there were 7 cards in the parade and you played a 3, the first 3 cards or the last 3 cards played to the parade are safe, as in they'll stay in the parade. But then of the other 4 cards, if there is a colour that's the same as the colour card you played, you must pick it up. And if there is a card that is either the same value or lower than the value card that you played, you also must pick it up. And the numbers on the cards will be points against you, and you'll place them in front of you, like in a tableau, in the 6 different suits. And then at the end of the game, those points will be totaled up, and the lowest points is the winner. So the game ends when the draw deck is exhausted, or one player has got cards of the 6 different colours. But the game's not over if you start collecting a lot of cards of one colour, because if you, at the end of the game, if you have the most cards of one colour, you get to turn that stack over, and all the numbers are ignored, and they're all valued at 1 point. So you sort of get to a point where you think, okay, I need to start collecting cards because I've got, the 10 of the blue suit and the 8 of the blue suit. I need to start collecting them so that they're only valued at 1 point. But it's actually like the decision space in this game is really engaging. So like playing a low card enables you to sort of ignore cards with higher numbers, but then you've got this big pool of cards that are going to affect you. And then playing a higher card makes you more likely to take cards, but makes the pool of cards that you're considering smaller. So it's weird, and it does feel trick-taking. It's it's weird like that, but it's not. It's not trick taking at all. Now the theme is there. I mean, it's it's very beautiful, but it's not really. The gameplay doesn't have anything really to do with the theme, but it's just so. I just used the word delightful, and actually, when I was researching it, I was looking to see if anybody had talked about it on YouTube, and I watched such a funny video of Meeple University back in 2018, and actually, this was when Tarrant clearly was first doing his videos. Like it looked like Stella might have been behind a phone or something like that. It was quite grainy, and he was talking about Parade. And Thinkathema have talked about it, and also Before You Play have said it's a game that they will never get rid of. So it's a really beautiful game. The unfortunate thing is it's quite hard to find. I just managed to scoop it up on secondhand, but it's a beautiful game, and if you do get the chance to purchase it secondhand, I'd highly recommend it. So yeah.
Just on that getting stuff secondhand note, I bought a copy of Condenseri that I forgot about and I haven't picked it up. Whoops. I'm going to contact that guy. I paid for it. Yeah, I paid for it like 3 weeks ago.
It's probably moved or sold it to someone else.
Oh, man. I'm going to fix that up. As soon as we stop this recording, I'm going to message that person and be like, I'm really sorry. I've been real busy. But yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
That's hilarious.
Driving past the airport, forgetting to pick up games I've bought, whatever's next. So,
what do you think about secondhand games and how? I mean, there's a lot of games secondhand. They're coming up all the time. And I must admit, I used to think that I could sell my games for a reasonable price, but I think the prices are getting lower. If you want to sell your games, you're going to have to reduce the prices because there's just too many of them. Yeah.
Well, that's exactly it, isn't it? It's supply and demand. There's now too much supply, and so the prices have got to drop. If you want to sell it that week, or if you just want it gone to make shelf space, or for whatever reason that you want to get rid of it, that someone else might be selling this particular game for $80, and you're like, oh look, I'll just put it on there for $60 because I just want it gone. And then you'll have a better chance of getting rid of it. But that's what happens. The prices just drop down, and that's economics, right? Like that is what it is. But there's some great. I mean, look, Condenseri, I picked that up. I'm really happy about it. Like some people are selling games that they just don't play that are older, and you can like Parade as well. You can pick that up, and it's a great place to pick up some of these games that you're after. I mean, like I've seen a copy of City of the Big Shoulders go for $100. I was devastated that I missed it. I was like, no.
Yes, you got to be really quick.
It was like I looked at the post and then I looked at the thing below, and it was like 12 minutes or something. Like it was someone was instantly onto it,
and there were already like 5 next in line.
Oh yeah, I was like number 7 or something. So yeah, there you go. But it's a great place to get it. Yeah, so on another note, a personal note, I know that we're not doing oaths anymore, right? But
be gone. Oaths be gone.
I'm still doing mine. I've got down to 97.4 kilos from my 103.6. So that's pretty good. Yeah, keep going. Keep going with that.
Lose weight really easily.
I told you, I'm Christian Bale. Like I do the up and the down. Like I just go up and down my whole life. In fact, I talked to my mum about it the other day, and yeah, my whole life my weight has gone up and gone down and gone up and then gone down. So it's probably not healthy. I'm not condoning this in any kind of way, but yeah, I'm also like, if I want to lose weight, I know that I have to take in less calories than what I'm burning. And that's basic math, right? So I have to do a lot of running, a lot of exercise to get there. But yeah,
I'm telling you now, post 50, basic maths does not work. Does not work. There are squishy bits that just will not go. And
Where's that come from?
And I've been looking into fat freezing.
What is
what's fat freezing?
Fat freezing. They put a little thing with. It's really interesting. It's like a little vice, like a little vice, and they squeeze your fat in between this vice, and then they freeze it, and it can be quite painful for a period of time. Like if you put something really cold on your skin, it burns. It's like that, but they literally freeze your fat cells, and then they die, and you wee them out.
Amazing.
You wee and poop them out.
It sounds like something that's done on the side of a shady alley in central Brisbane.
Not at all. Not at all. You know, you could get Botox at the same time.
There you go. I haven't had that
Lauren's
yet.
giving me a very strange look. It's just because you're you're a spring chicken. That's all. I'm telling you.
I'm not a stranger to the squishy bits that won't budge, though. Look.
Lauren's not going there now. We'll go there on a Patreon. Lauren's got a face that's
telling you, look up
telling me everything.
I got some stories that I feel like are not kosher for a regular pod.
We'll get there later. Lauren, I see on here as well that you played a game of pitches.
Oh, did we ever? That game won is it the Spiel des Jahres?
It did, yeah.
Oh, what a game. I have since had it in my cart multiple times, but just not quite pulled the trigger because I haven't bought many games this year, to be honest. But I do think I will pick it up eventually. It is so good. It is so much better than it has any right to be. It was almost my sizzle this week, but it has been sizzled on the pod before. The crux of pictures is essentially there's a whole bunch of different modalities that you're going to use to try and draw out or evoke a particular picture. So there's a bunch of different photographs on the table in the center that have grid locations, and everyone's going to be assigned one picture. You're then going to have a different set of objects or methods through which you're going to draw that picture. That could be using shoelaces or blocks or a little small grid with colored cubes. I think it's 3x3 grid of colored cubes. All these different methods to try and evoke a particular picture. And it's essentially a competitive game. You want everyone, you're going to get points for guessing others correctly and for people correctly guessing yours. So you want yours to be good, and you also want to guess other people's correctly. James's drawing of a monkey holding onto railing with shoelace was a Van Gogh and Picasso quality. It was outstanding. Maybe Picasso was abstract, but it's not a great example. But
I was upside down to James. I didn't need to get up and walk around to look. I instantly knew what it was. Oh, it's that one. Done. Like, tick, write it down. Like, I didn't have to think about it.
But it does have that quality of how can you not tell that this cylinder next to this triangle is this particular thing? Why is not everyone picking up what I'm putting down?
Yeah.
It is really good fun. It's incredibly family friendly. You think that some modalities are going to be easier than others. So you think that, the shoelace lets you draw something, so it's going to be easier. But when it's this vague lake and scenery kind of picture that looks pretty similar to other stuff, it's really hard to know what's gonna work. So all of the different methods that you use will work for certain pictures. So there's none that are quote unquote worse. Although the wooden blocks are the worst ones. They're so hard to accurately portray. But yeah. I really enjoyed pictures. I'll be picking it up. Incredibly family friendly. It definitely won the Spiel des Jahres for a reason.
I have to say, I don't like the cards. You get a deck of cards and I think you can go from 2 to 5 cards to make the picture. And none of the cards quite match what you're trying to portray. Like, there might be a forest, so you've got a clover leaf. But then there's also like a casino picture and someone's like, lucky luck. Casino, it must be that. And yeah, I find the cards very irritating.
I don't know. Because also how you can arrange them on the table helps. What was it? The flag or the trophy and the flame perfectly. Everyone was like, yep, that's the race car. It's got to be.
Yeah.
So
true.
You do have your moments, but yeah, I agree. That one's definitely tricky.
Yeah, for sure.
Can I talk about something completely unrelated, but it's slightly related? It's slightly related because it's pictures. It's just pictures. Just for anybody who's listening, I actually played in my very first Jackbox Games night. It was on Saturday night, and there was some drawing activities. I have never done anything like this before. Anything with that kind of technology seems just way too hard for me. But I just wanted to talk about it, only just because you started talking about pictures and drawing. But it was really wonderful. It was this game where you get two cards. You get two cards and you get to draw on one card and then the second card, and you get given these clues, and the clues can be quite ridiculous. Like, for example, mine was gossiping gargoyle, and you're trying to draw gossiping gargoyle on two cards, and they'll get on your computer screen or on a phone, they'll get shown like in a loop, one after the other. They'll just keep switching between the two, and everybody has to sort of come up with an answer, and hopefully you'll create an answer that helps, that will encourage people to vote for your answer. So it's a bit Boulder Dash like, but with pictures. And you can't. There's no eraser at all. You can't erase it. So it's like your first choice is what it is, and some of them were just so funny. But I really wanted to say how wonderful it was to just be on Discord, and Discord is not normally my my app or whatever of choice sort of thing. I'm more onto Facebook and Instagram and things like that. But it was so wonderful to be within the community and to just play this game and have a good laugh. It was absolutely fabulous. And actually my daughter joined me sort of in the background as well. But I'd just like to actually, well, one of the questions, we played another game, and one of the questions was Best New Artist Grammy Award winners. Yeah. And she knows all that. So she was sort of giving me a bit of a hand. But I'd just sort of encourage anybody who maybe is frightened of joining Discord or giving those sorts of nights a try to just give it a go, because it really was wonderful, and everybody was really supportive because I'm, not very tech savvy and things like that. So everybody was really supportive. So if you're on the fence or you haven't tried it before, just give it a try.
I know how those nights go, right? They get pretty dark pretty fast. I wasn't there, so I'm glad that you were, because I know that you would have been on point. So, yeah, I'm sure I hear about it later on. But, yeah, they are great. You are right. They're so much fun.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't know what a Jackbox night is. I didn't. I had to look it up. So I didn't know what it was. And so, as I said, I'm just trying to encourage people to give it a go.
Nice. That's Jackbox party nights and pictures.
Yes, sorry. Sorry. It just came to mind. So that's right.
Absolutely.
There's there's side barring, then there's, 4 states over, like there's
another game that has pictures on the box.
It was drawing.
Yeah, very true. Before we move on to some sizzles, I just wanted to quickly highlight again that I managed to play more of the Elder Scrolls in a group as well, in a group setting. All I can say is, if that's in your pledge manager or you're thinking about getting it, you're on the fence, I'm just going to say don't miss out. I haven't cancelled mine. I've actually backed more of it since. I've got everything, the metal bits, the whole lot. It really came to life with 3 players. Like, it really did start to the way the roles work and the way the skill points work and the way you build your character really, it came to life straight up. So,
did you see Paul Grogan's video about?
I didn't, no.
Yeah, he was just doing an update, and he actually talked about the Elder Scrolls, and he said that for him it replaces too many bones for him. But he did say that it's quite the learning curve, and so that's sort of what worries me when I think about a game like that. So how have you found that?
Well, for me, I mean, look at me. I drove off halfway to the Gold Coast with my passenger in the car who's supposed to go to the airport. You know, I forgot to pick up my game that I bought 3 weeks ago. Like, I've got a scatterbrain. Like, I am not good with rule books and things like that at the best of times. I really have to force myself to focus. I do struggle with that a little bit. However, once I got through it and got past that and did the first couple of tutorial bits by myself and then started to play the game, it came so alive. It really did. Like, I've said it before, Paul, just so we can look in our Discord history. I said it first, Paul, if you're listening. It is the too many bones. It's what I wanted too many bones to be. That's how I would describe it. And I've never sizzled too many bones on the pod. I've talked about it and I've enjoyed it, but there was something lacking in there for me. And it was the sort of adventure element that I felt that was sort of this story that you follow and almost this sort of meta game that you kind of have this overarching experience. Because in Too Many Bones, when you play the game, you finish it and you pack it up and you did the scenario and it's great, end of. Whereas with this, you actually have these trays that hold all your components and dice in spot, because when you next bring out those characters, you're going to play them again from where they are. You're not going to start a new character. And because the skill trees are so open to doing all kinds of different combinations of things, that I feel that the game's longevity comes from that ability to really introduce like different skill sets and different classes and different races all together and just sort of mix and match all these different things. So I loved it so far.
What about if you hadn't played anything like that before? Because you said you played Too Many Bones. Would you say that the learning curve would obviously be a lot steeper? I'd imagine
100%. But as much as I love Kingdom Death Monster, and I think it's one of the greatest games ever made, the rule book is so painful. If I'm honest, I really struggle with that rule book. Whereas this rule book is very clear and very concise and very good. But it's a big rule book. Like you said, Dana, it's a huge learning curve. If you haven't played Too Many Bones, the amount of times that I was playing the game and in my head referencing and saying, oh, just like in Too Many Bones, just like in Too Many Bones, you know, it has that hardwired DNA in it. And yeah, the fact that it's a sort of traveling kind of adventure game just opens up that world a bit more. And yeah, all I can say is so far, big success. I will definitely go into more of the mechanics and how things work when I sizzle it after a couple more sessions. But yeah, it's very good. It's very, very, very good.
I've been interested to try this one, but my difficulty with this and Too Many Bones as well, actually, is just the buy-in for it is so big. So if they ever come out with kind of a Too Many Bones Unbreakable equivalent for Elder Scrolls, a little package where I could just have a taster, I'd be very keen for that, because it feels like there's so much product and there's so much to get the full experience.
I think
but it does look incredible.
I mean, yeah, I suppose like Jaws of the Lion did it right for Gloomhaven, so there's no reason why it can't be done in the future. But I would say that getting in now might be the better time to get in, because it was their largest Kickstarter of all time, right? Chip 3 Games. It's basically an IP game from Bethesda, which is a multi-billion-dollar company, right? If we think they're not going to make more content for this game, that would be insane. So it's like buy now, or if you get it later, you're going to want to probably get more stuff. I don't know. I don't know if they'll ever do that version, that smaller version. Maybe they will, but yeah, so far I've been impressed. And the thing that I definitely added was the extra content for, I think, the Mystic Veil or the Mist Veil or something. thing. I didn't even read it. I was just like, buy, hit, yeah, add, done. But yeah, it's very good. I think people who have backed it will be very impressed with it. So
they're about 5 hours, isn't it? Like a session. Would that be correct?
Like yes and no. Like it depends on how much you talk and how much you fluff about. Like our sessions are probably 4 hours, but you can. The interesting thing about it is that you can really just whenever you want in your game night, you can go, cool, we're packing it up now, and we're going to play next time, and this is where we start. Whereas in other games, I feel like you need to do the town phase, then this phase, do the battle, get back to town, do your spending, and then it's the end of your session. Whereas in this, you can just kind of go, we're going to just call it here, I think. And once you finish your little battle, and you can do the other stuff afterwards. No, super impressed, super grateful that Chit 3 Games sent it to us. And yeah, I think in a couple more weeks, I'll be talking in depth about more of the mechanics and mechanisms behind it. So
sounds good.
Transform your gaming experience with the Table Flippers. The Table Flippers specialise in handcrafted custom game tables that turn your living space into the ultimate gaming arena. Designed for style and functionality, their tables are guaranteed to elevate your game night. Visit thetableflippers.com.au to explore their stunning designs and to order your premium game table today.
Lauren, you earlier on promised a different sizzle other than Pictures, because Pictures almost took the spot, but it got pipped off by a different game. So what was that?
Yes, the game I want to talk about, which is a game I played with Kerry recently, and a game that we played back to back to back to back, is Last Bastion. Last Bastion is a re-implementation of Ghost Stories, which is a notoriously very difficult cooperative game. I've never played Ghost Stories. To my knowledge, Last Bastion is basically the same game as Ghost Stories, just with maybe some slight tweaks and refinements and a cleanup of the UI, the iconography, and a different theme. It's kind of a generic fantasy theme. In Last Bastion / Ghost Stories, what you're trying to do is just survive for as long as you can. Have either of you played it, by the way?
Nope.
Never. Not even heard of it.
No, I've never heard of it as well. I quickly looked on my phone because I thought I'd never heard of it.
It's a game that Z Garcia talks very highly of. So I don't know if you've might have seen it in that context, Lana. But essentially, you are just trying to survive for as long as you can. Like many cooperative games, there's lots of ways that you can lose, but really only one way that you can win. So it's sort of tower defensey, but essentially it's a square board that has space on each side for 3 enemies. And these enemies are going to be popping out, and stacked towards the bottom of the deck is this uber enemy. And what you need to do to win is get to that uber enemy and kill it. So you need to survive long enough to get through the deck that you get to the big bad, and then kill the big bad.
Sounds fair.
Yeah, pretty fair. And that's he's normally real difficult and awful. Essentially, on your turn, you can move around this square board, and you can move and take an action. And where the actions are is going to be randomized between each game. So every game is going to look a bit different. And it's normally it can go up to 4 players, and normally each person would kind of have their side of the board that they go at. But so you're going to move and take an action. And those actions can be things like get an extra life, which you've got 3 health. And if you die and everyone dies, well, that's one of the ways that you can lose. You can also do things like cast a net on an enemy, which means that its effect is not going to resolve this turn. You can do something like set a bomb trap so that if you ever spawn an enemy on that space, it instantly just goes to the graveyard. So there's lots of different actions that you can take. It's really, really flipping difficult because when you take an action, so say I'm sitting across from the board to you, Adrian. I'm going to take my action. And then as we go around the table, we're resolving until we get to the next player, we're resolving all of the monster's effects on the way that are kind of around the board. So it gets to my side of the board. We can resolve all of those monsters, and then I'm going to take a turn. And then say, Dana, if you're sitting to my left, we resolve all the monsters on that side, then you get a turn. But if it was just Adrian and I playing, it would resolve all of the monsters all the way around, and then Adrian's going to get a turn. So not only is where you are on the board really important, but it's also because it's also really important to make sure that you're minimizing what effects are going to take place between player turns. So when Kerry and I were playing it was just a 2-player game, so we were only playing with 2 heroes, but you still fill all the sides of the boards with monsters, because to attack monsters, you need to be next to them. So you might think, let me put this monster in the corner, because that way I can be in the one spot and I'll have 2 monsters that we can hit at the same time. But the corners are really far away. So then you say, okay, well, let's put them in the middle, because that way if I stand in the center, it's easy for me to get everywhere. But then it's less action efficient, because if I'm standing in that one spot, I've only got 1 monster to bash. So it's really, really tricky, because another thing that the monsters are going to do is they can bring these in Last Bastion. I'm not sure what it is in Ghost Stories. They can bring in these skulls that will kind of, when they spawn, it'll sit on their card, and then it's going to move onto the board. And when those skulls move onto the board, it does 2 things. It is one of the lose conditions. If you get 3 skulls on the board, you're going to lose. But another thing it does is it prevents you from performing the action of the spot the skull's on. So if a skull pops out and it's on the space where you need to be getting more health, then all of a sudden you can't heal and you are screwed. So one of the actions that you can take is to clear a skull. So the jostling of which actions you need to take, where you need to be positioned, where you want to spawn monsters out, all of these lots and lots of micro decisions that are really important make the game really tight and really difficult. It can have a bit of a cascading effect in terms of, negative things bear on more negative things, because you get this one monster comes out and that its, spawn effect is that it spawns another monster next to it. And that monster's effect is that it puts a skull on it. And that all of these things can cascade and trigger, but it's really good. What I really like about it is, even though it's punishing, the games are lightning quick. We played in a gaming afternoon 4 games of it and another 2 other games. So I think we knocked over 4 games of it in about an hour, because you can lose really quickly. And sometimes we did lose really quickly, but we won 1 out of those 4 games. So it is totally winnable. I don't think it's all about luck, because once you see the deck a few times and you know the kinds of spawn effects, it becomes less about luck. In the same way with other games like Pandemic and things like that, right? Where when the deck is stacked in Pandemic, you could say, as long as we don't draw Algiers, it's fine. But it's a calculated risk, because Algiers is stacked at the top of the deck. So even though it might be bad luck to draw Algiers, you still should be taking your actions with consideration of the fact that that's a possibility. And it feels like the same thing in Last Bastion, is that, it's bad luck that we got this enemy, which cascaded this, which cascaded this. But when you know the cards, that's a possibility. So you should be thinking, okay, which is more important? Do we need to get Kerry an extra health right now? Or do we put a bomb here to block whatever monster is going to happen, because we can't afford to have a cascade right now? We need to clean up this first. So it feels like you still, even though there is an element of luck in it for sure, it feels like you can always calculate and understand what you should or need to be doing, which I really, really liked. There's a constant pace and grind to it, because at the beginning of every turn, you got to draw a monster and put it out. So there's constant action in the game. You're constantly up against other things. There doesn't feel like there's any lull quiet moments too much like there are in other cooperative games. It seems to kind of ramp up and you always scrape to the finish. So in the game that we won, the big bad came out and it was like, okay, everything's going to absolute trash on this half of the board. But you know what? We can just edge a win if, Kerry, you get there, you attack it, and then I'll come and do this thing, then attack it. That'll be just enough to kill it, which gets us over the line before that other stuff causes the lose trigger. So it never feels like, or at least for my experience, it hasn't felt like something like Spirit Island, which has a very different cadence, which is it gets really, 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 really hard until all of a sudden you kind of overthrow and overpower the invaders. And then it's this cruise to the finish as you kind of become these big, powerful spirits, which is an awesome cadence in that game. I really like that. Or in Pandemic as well, where it feels like often you get the cures and then towards the end of the game, you're like, wipe that, we've got it. So in Last Bastion, it really feels like you're scraping to the finish for these wins, but it's so Moorish. You just want to play again and again. And I like that. I don't want to play a 2-hour cooperative game that feels punishing, but yeah, I'll play a 15, 20-minute game that's super punishing because it's addictive. Like, let's roll it again. We can do better. And I've really enjoyed it.
So it's Kerry's game, right?
Yeah, it's Kerry's game.
Did she mention ever playing it with 4 players or anything and what that does? Like, if that's harder or easier or?
From memory, it might be Dean's game that Kerry borrowed that I played, but she's played it solo and she's played it at 2. I'm not sure if she's played it at 4. You can always add more characters. I don't believe she's ever added the 4 characters.
Yeah, okay.
Because I feel like it balances though, because even though you've got more heroes combating against things in more actions, every hero has to draw monsters at the beginning of their turn. So there's more hero actions, but there's more monsters being drawn. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it would scale well, but I've heard it plays very well at 1 player and it does play very well at 2. I've not played it at other player counts, so I can't speak to it. But yeah, just outstanding game. Really, really enjoyed it. Great cooperative game. I'm not normally one for generic fantasy themes, but I found the art really quite nice. The gameplay really smooth. The rulebook did leave a little to be desired in some edge cases, but that's okay. It's quick enough and silly enough that we could just make an executive decision and move on. But I highly, highly recommend it to give it a try. I'm not sure how easy it is to find. And unlike Ghost Stories, which has a lot of expansions to it, Last Bastion never got any expansion content. So I don't know that if you've got Ghost Stories, you need to upgrade to Last Bastion because you might be missing out on extra content. But yeah, absolutely recommend it. Wholeheartedly, lovely cooperative experience. That is Last Bastion.
I'd like to try that because I get what's the word? I get
forgetful.
It affects,
Forgetful. You like?
Yeah. Hang on. What? No. I'm trying to think of a word. You've interrupted me. No. But it's like disheartening when you keep losing something. And you're right. A lot of games go for an hour or 2 or whatever. And if you keep losing, it just becomes so disheartening. And so something that's short, that is hard, but still winnable, but hard is fine for me. So I wouldn't mind giving it a go, actually.
Yeah, just like, I'm ready to be heard again. Let's go.
Yeah.
Almost this stubbornness too. Like, we can't end this until we win a session, and it's only 20 more minutes. Let's roll it again.
Yeah.
No, sounds good.
Nice. That was Last Bastion. And Dana, what about yourself? What's your sizzling game this week?
I am doing something the complete opposite. And this game is the anti-Jules. It's everything that Jules is about, but the opposite of that. It's Dorfromantik. Now, you probably have heard of it because it won the Spiel des Jahres in 2023. I don't believe it's been sizzled on the podcast, but to be honest, I can't imagine anybody sizzling it. Yeah. So there you go. But because it's probably not for everybody, this particular game, but I enjoy it. So hence why it's here. So Dorfromantik is published by Pegasus Spiel. And when I looked up the designers are Michael Palm and Lucas Sapp, but they designed Bang the Dice game. And I love Bang the Dice game. So Dorfromantik means, I looked it up because we were just curious when I was playing it. We were just curious what it meant. And it actually means village romanticism or a nostalgic feeling for the countryside. That's what Dorfromantik means.
The German language has so many words like that just one word that encapsulates this whole concept.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
I love that.
Yeah.
Like they've got one word which is a person that deserves to be punched in the face. It's like there's one German word for that. So I love that.
That's so true. That's so true.
Sorry, Dorfromantik.
Now, this is obviously a video game, which you may, I don't know if you've actually played the video game or not. That's where it comes from. Why did I buy this game? Knowing, and I sort of knew ahead of time, that it was very light and some people probably have had a negative response to it, but it looked cool and it had sort of a legacy element, so I gave it a go. So it's to me, a lovely, straightforward tile laying game, and it's got this unfolding mechanic where the more points you score, it's a campaign, but the more points you score, the more content you unlock, and you get additional tiles or new mechanics which can affect your score. So it introduces things from game to game very gradually, and as you play the game, you can sort of also understand better how to maximize your score. And as I said, it's very much about trying to get the best score rather than winning and then unlocking something. An example is like I'll show you here. I should put it on social media actually, but it's like a little map type thing. And depending on your score, you get a rating, which is similar to a game that you were talking about, Lauren. I can't remember which game you were talking about, where you get rated and you get a name. Like at the lowest, you're a vagabond. And then it sort of gets progressively better by that. But you get to cross off these little circles, and the higher you score, the more circles you'll get to cross off, and then you'll get to unlock more content. So I just found that, I don't know, this game kind of clicked for me, and it was the kind of game to me that I could sit there with a glass of wine on a date night, or I could play it, with a younger child or something like that. It's very relaxing. It's Mindfulness, the board game. That's what it is. That's what it is for me. So it's kind of suits me. It's cozy and it's challenging at the same time. So it plays 1 to 6, and it's a cooperative game, and you're playing like this series of short games. So you've got 2 different types of tiles. You've got landscape tiles and task tiles. And landscape tiles have got all different types of terrain on them. There's wheat terrain, there's a village terrain, forest terrain. There's also rivers and a train track as well. At any time, you're going to have 3 tasks on this cooperative countryside that you're building with these hex tiles. And tasks will be you'll turn it over and it'll be a number. And it'll be the number 4 for villages. And that means you need to have 4 village tiles connected together. And then once you complete that tasks, the 4 becomes your points that you score in the game, and you'll keep that. And then the next person will draw another task tile, and it might be for a railroad. And the railroad, it might say you need to have 6 railroad tiles in a row. And then once you complete that 6 becomes the points that you earn. You also have flags on tiles as well, which you have to complete certain terrains as well to add to your points at the end of the game. Rivers and railroads have certain placement rules where you can't block them off. You can't block them off. Same with railroads, and you also get points for your longest river and your longest railroad as well. So the game it really doesn't take very long. It probably takes maybe half an hour, something like that. But it is incredibly relaxing. Like, it is so relaxing. Like, honestly, it's mindfulness. It's not like Sprawlopolis, which is like really thinky or something like that. And you might think, oh, it's just a puzzle. It's just a puzzle. But it's actually really relaxing. And I've found it sort of like really encouraging. It's encouraging. And I feel good afterwards when I play it. It's something that I would happily like introduce to like a partner or something like that who maybe wasn't into gaming, or you didn't want to have something that was competitive or something that had like a really strong time limit or something like that. It's just perfect for certain occasions. And actually we've been playing it, or we played it at the end of a game night. So it was when I was tired. I was sort of half asleep really when I played it. But it was just so enjoyable. And the feedback that I've read about this game, and you'll probably see it online if you look it up, people say it's not a game. It's not a game at all. It's just a thing. It's just a thing you do. It's an activity. And actually even Tom Vassell has said that, I think he said it was an activity. But it's a puzzle that you do with friends. And to me, it's, as I said, you can just be there in the moment. It's just a pleasure to me to play.
I have played this game.
Oh,
I've spoken about it on the podcast a while ago, but I didn't sizzle it because I never got super deep into all of the campaign elements and all the unlockable elements. I did unlock a few of the boxes, and I just thought it was good. Same thing, same kind of feedback. It's just good, solid. It's interesting enough and puzzly enough that it keeps you on your toes, but not ridiculous. It's not stupidly hard, but there are bits where you do get a little bit frustrated because you can't make what you need to happen because of the tiles that you're drawing. But it was great. I enjoyed it. And it looks very nice on the table. I think it looks nice when you start to build out your little village and the rivers and all the other things. Yeah, I think it
literally looks like the European countryside.
I spoken about this on the podcast before, Dana, but I love that mindfulness element in board games that are really cozy, that just evoke a sweet time, that you can have a nice cup of tea and just sit by yourself or with one other person and just enjoy being in the present moment and just running through the motions of what is a very lovely, quaint activity. I do hate, though, one of my pet peeves is people saying, oh, it's not a game, it's an activity. That feels so gatekeepery and unnecessary. It's a game.
Yeah.
It's a game.
Yeah.
I really do want to try this one. I've not played the video game, but maybe Dinah, you and I got to do like a top 5, top 10 cozy or mindful games, because they're one that I gravitate to more and more.
This is probably the most mindful game that I've played.
Oh, wow.
To me, it's the most mindful game that I've played. Something where I'm not maybe getting frustrated that I'm not getting a good score or something like that. I don't feel that way in this game. I don't feel that way. Funnily enough, when we talked about, people bringing out dual versions, well, there's a Dorfromantik dual. The
I was
dual
going to say, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So if you want to play with a partner, that might be the perfect version.
Yeah, it is. I can imagine that this would be perfect with 2, but, there may be something else in that.
I've only ever played it at 2, and it was solid.
Yeah.
It was very good.
Yeah. So
your plays mostly solo, Dana?
No, with a group, and actually there were 5 of us.
Oh, wow.
I have read that people say, oh, don't play it with that many people, but we enjoyed it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, we enjoyed it. So it was fun to me.
Nice.
So that's it. Dorfromantik.
Dorfromantik. Very cool.
It's got a cool name.
Yeah, it's a very cool name.
Yeah, romantic time in a village.
Yeah.
Well, that's our sizzling games for this week. We will move on to a couple of announcements and a bit of news and updates.
Hi there, it's Dana Banana from the Board Game BBQ, and if you listen to the podcast, you'll know that I love a new board game smell. So when I'm in need of a new aroma, the best place to go is to head to Advent Games. They have a huge range of games from pre-orders to in-stock games. Actually, I don't think there's a store that can match their variety. Dean, the owner, is fantastic, and if I'm after a particular game, he's always so responsive. So if you're after a new board game smell, make sure you go to adventgames.com.au.
The Melbourne Game Day on the 21st of September at the Gaming Arena in Coburg. I'm so jealous of that name. It sounds so grandiose and epic, like the Gaming Arena. That would be sick. At Coburg, there's limited tickets left, so please, if you want to come along, jump onto that. And just a quick cheeky announcement that the Brisbane Game Day has now been locked in for the 16th of November. I've had people asking me about it. We're going to run some bigger games in a separate space, so just keep an eye out on Eventbrite and stuff for that, because that will be announced soon, but just save the date. We also have the Sydney Game Day, which Lauren's got the information for.
Yep. So first weekend in November, get amongst it. Same location as always. Castle Hill RSL tickets are selling fast. It's great. We're going to have some big games. We're going to have demos like we always do. And if you were at PlayCon and you really enjoyed it, so many people from Sydney at PlayCon that had not been to any of our events before, like we saw in the feedback. So if you're one of those people, we'd absolutely love to have you. It's definitely a smaller scale, but we've got a great refreshed library because we were able to circle through games amongst the cities after PlayCon. So a bunch of new games for you to try in the Sydney library. Come along. It's a great time.
Sick. That's awesome. And with that, we shall move on to the question of the pod. So, the question of the pod from last week, now that we have like a new segment and all, and the O's are dead, just been double tapped. Basically, we now have this thing we've called, it's basically hashtag fired up. So if anyone's excited about anything in the future and they want to post it on our Facebook group or Discord, just feel free to use that hashtag, because it is kind of fun and cool for everyone to look at all the different fired up things from years, in years to come, look back at all the different things that were posted over that time, which is pretty cool. And I personally was very jealous that everyone got to do this straight away, because there was a heap of things I was fired up about, and I'll save those for the end of this show when we get to that segment. But for now, Lauren, if you'd like to take it away with the Facebook answers.
Absolutely. Platypus Industries says they're fired up. Getting all my platypuses in a row for an upcoming convention and completing my regional fulfillment of drop bears. I've seen some of the pre-orders coming up, the components for drop bears. They look awesome. So it's time to get my butt into gear and get my next game ready for the play testers. Dice It Up Gaming said, I'm looking forward to Worms by Mantic Games showing up at my doorstep soon. Bring on the chaos. That's based on, I think, that video game.
Yeah, that was a great video game. I loved that as a kid.
Absolutely awesome. Carl Van Ostrand says, I've got 3 awesome events before the end of the year. I've got a small local convention, a medium-sized We're Here to Play Games convention, and a mega convention, PAX Unplugged. And then yes, with heaps of E's and yeses and S's. Also have at least one game getting announced. Ooh. Intrigue. Color me intrigued. Jimmy Boss says, oh man, the timing of this. I'm fired up for my new board game / dining table that's being custom made and delivered tomorrow by Gumtree Hill here in Tassie.
Sick.
Brilliant.
Lucky Jimmy. I'd love another game table. They're so good.
And he posted some photos too on Facebook, and they look beautiful.
Yeah, they look absolutely
legit,
gorgeous.
Posh.
Yeah.
Sick. Nice. Dana, would you like to do Instagram?
Stephen Phil says, finally played through my first Lacerda. That achievement has me excited for the possibility of untapping more heavy games that have always seemed beyond my capacity. Board games are just great. God, that makes me happy reading that. I just love that comment. I'm like, oh, you remember when you played your first Lacerda game? Surely, Adrian.
Yeah, for sure.
And the feeling of like, I can do it. I can do it.
I was like, MJ, you can do it. You can do it. Read that rule book, MJ. Get into it. Get stuck in. I'll make a cup of tea.
Joe Plays Games says, not specifically a game, but the potential for more in the future. There's a growing and thriving indie board game designer community on Instagram, and seeing the games in development and chatting with the designers has me buzzing. They post with the hashtag board game proto hype. Oh, that's clever. Board game proto hype instead of prototype.
I was like, oh, I'm using that.
Yeah, that's very clever. Yeah.
That's very cool.
That's awesome.
And on Discord, we had Meg's Roof say, I just got my Oz post notification for Kelp. Oh, God, I didn't back that, but I should have. It looks amazing.
Looks beautiful.
It's beautiful.
This is very exciting for me because this is the first crowd-funded game that I have gotten for myself and not part of a group pledge. That's pretty cool. Nice. And we also had Lachlan say, just got my shipping notification for Age of Rail, South Africa Rails. I've been waiting for that Kickstarter for literal years. So,
that's awesome.
Nice.
I will say as well, on the note of hashtag board game hype and indie developers, I forgot to mention that I played our own budding indie designer, Dan, a podcast host. He's developed a tabletop RPG, and I played it, and I didn't get the chance to speak about it. But Dan, I will speak about it. It's incredible, and it just reminded me.
That's so wonderful. I love that.
I love this question. I love seeing the things that people are hyped about.
Yeah. Very cool. I want to know more about Dan's thing, so I'm sure he'll tell us when he's on the pod next. So
yeah, that's wonderful.
So we were talking about a new question on the pod, and since it's Father's Day in Australia, and I'm not sure if it's in America, maybe. I don't really know. I don't follow it that much. So. But yeah, basically we thought we would ask, what games do you enjoy playing with your dad or as a dad? And share some of those thoughts and things. For me, I didn't play any games with my dad. But however, as a dad, I just love playing any games with him, to be honest. You know, it's lovely just seeing him figure things out and do different things and watching his mind click and tick in different ways. And even just some of the silly games like we've played recently, like the Paku Paku one with the craziness and the chaos. And like I said on the pod a couple of weeks ago, rather than actually passing me the dice, the ones that he successfully does, he just puts them in front of himself. And I'm like, whoa, you got to put them over near me. Like, I'm putting them over near you. And he's like, that counts. I've done those. And, you know, the arguments and the drama that kind of come with that is great. We played a game of cockroach poker with Draven recently, and that was also good. But yeah, just to be honest, just playing any games with him is great. You know, some of the memories are really fun. And I think for me, if I had to pick a game specifically, it would be Teo, mainly because I had that journey with my mum with Teo, and it's her favorite game, and then to teach it to him, knowing that my mum's coming out this Christmas, it would be really nice to all play a game with the three of us, to have the sort of three generations all playing that together. So
that's a wonderful moment. You should photograph that for sure. But that's really beautiful.
Well, we'll have to get dressed as well.
Yeah, okay.
You know, my family, we don't really get. Yeah, we don't even bother getting dressed. We just run around jocks all the time. So that's why the photos.
Although now that you're 97.4 kilos, it's
oh yeah, it's going to be shirt optional. The Boxing Day gaming.
That's right. That's it. So that was always shirt optional. So anyway,
that's why Donna loves going.
that's why she hasn't been yet. So, but yeah. And what about you guys? What about a game for you, Lauren, that you may have played with your dad growing up, or as a dad?
So as a dad, no. So it's not exactly board games, but perhaps gaming adjacent, which is all of the games that are on, the back page of the newspaper. My dad consumes news like air, and so we always had stacks and stacks of newspapers. And a few things that we really get into as a family is the Good Weekend Quiz. So just general trivia and trivia games my dad's always had an exceptional love for. So some of the mass market version games of quiz shows. So things like Chaser, Eggheads, things like that. My dad's loved, and I've always loved playing with him because he's just so good at pub trivia. It's out like otherworldly. And so I think that's something that I've always really admired of him and enjoyed playing with him. And then some of the other things at the back of the newspaper, like the Sudoku or the games where you've got to, it's a grid of tiles with letters and you've got to come up with as many words using those letters, but you have to use the central letter.
I love those.
And it just stuff like that we would sit and do together on a Sunday, which he still does. And when I go over to visit their house and I see his newspaper open on the table, I'll just stand over it for 5 minutes and then add a word or two, and he'll just be gleeful that he didn't come up with it. Those really nice moments with those kinds of games. So not so much in the way of board games, but maybe the closest thing to board games is my dad is an absolute fiend of poker. At my brother's Bucks weekend, he cleaned up, demolished all the friends in poker. So definitely have had some fond memories of doing that with him as well. But yeah. What about you, Dana? Anything kind of
poker resonates
oh, really?
with me? Not with my dad, but my husband as a dad playing with us as a family. My husband and I got into poker. When I say into poker, like around 2004, when the World Poker Tour was just starting to be televised on television, and you had to watch it like at 11 o'clock at night. And we would be up till 2 o'clock in the morning watching the World Poker Tour with, I don't know, the likes of Phil Hellmuth. I don't know. Anyway, they're big poker players, sponsored poker players. And
the Phil Hellmuth.
No. Well, yeah, and you could watch the cards being played and it's full commentary. This is what I'm talking about. One day board games will be like this. I know it. We'll be watching board games and there'll be this full commentary. It's so cool. And
Adrian
people will be sponsored.
Playing Tio, the beads of sweat down his shirtless back.
Places the dice into area 5. What a mistake.
Yeah. So we'll get out the my husband's got poker chips, and we'll get out the poker chips, and he's taught the kids how to play Texas Hold'em poker, and it's really, really wonderful. And actually, I'm just rubbish at that game. I'm terrible at it, but it's such a mind game. And it's very mathematical. My husband's very good at maths, so it's just knowing the odds of what chance your hand has to win. But the kids really enjoy it when he brings out the poker chips and the nice poker cards that are made of plastic, 100% plastic. You can't go with paper.
Yeah, that's so cool. At Las Vegas, you can buy decks of cards that get played once at a table.
Yes.
And then they package them, and then you can buy cards that have been played on a gambling table in Las Vegas. And so that's the cards that we have for our poker set, are all these cards and chips that have been used in Vegas, which is, so cool.
And my husband can do all these tricks with poker chips where he's fiddling with them, and then
can he shuffle them when you bring the two together?
He does that.
I need to know how to do that. It looks so cool.
Yeah, so it does. He looks really cool. It's really intimidating.
Yeah, that's a mind game in itself. Yeah, 100%. You would probably try to do it and drop the chips on the floor and go, oh, bugger. You'd be crawling around on your hands and knees looking for chips and stuff. Like, not as cool and not as intimidating. But
yeah.
Well, it's our answers, but we would like to know your answers. So what games do you enjoy playing with your dad or as a dad? Patrons, love you. Thank you so much for all your help and support. And remember, if you want to be a Patreon and support Board Game BBQ, please check out www.patreon.com/Board Game BBQ, and you can sign up to get access to exclusive podcasts, episodes, join the Jackbox nights, join the trivia nights, join the pre-packs. Well, there is a PAX thing going to happen, but there's also going to be like pre-PlayCon stuff that we do with Patrons and all sorts of different fun shenanigans going on. And remember, you can also support without donating by telling your friends about the podcast, bringing mates to game days, Spotify rating, leave a star rating. We're at like 113 now, which is awesome. Let's see if we can crack like 150. That would be legit amazing. Just grab your mum's phone or your mate's phone, hit the star rating. You know, that's what I do with my Uber drivers. Half of those ratings are probably my Uber drivers, but that's all good. And yeah, just follow us on Instagram, X, YouTube, Facebook community, all that kind of stuff. And of course, as Dana mentioned earlier, check out the Discord community. If you're a bit worried about it, honestly, there's like a heap of videos out there on YouTube. Like, just learn how to use Discord in 5 minutes. And there's a video that will show you how to use the basics to get in. And it was a real eye-opener for me when I first started. I watched a couple of those videos and it got me over a bunch of the hurdles getting through. And yeah, it's a really cool community, a really cool place to hang out.
If you don't want to watch videos, message me because I can help you learn.
Yeah, there you go. Just join the Discord and then ping Dana. So
just crawl into Dana's DMs and to Daddy's Discord.
That's it. Sweet. All the links for all of those things are in our show notes. So boom, fired up. Let's go.
We need a soundbite. We need a soundbite here. We need a soundbite with something.
Yeah.
That's like the one. Bite it. Every ep.
That's it. That's done.
You've given it to us, Dana.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry. I got.
Sound like you had a feather at the back of your throat. You're like. So cool. Well, I'm gonna kick it off with what I'm fired up for, and no kidding.
Adrian, I'm sorry.
It's all right. I am fired up for more Elder Scrolls. I'm not kidding. Like, I really enjoyed it, and I think that just like any of those kind of co-op games, when the group vibes off each other and they enjoy the game as well, you all kind of get on that same wavelength and that same kind of pattern. And we kind of had a sort of mini discussion about it afterwards and discussed our thoughts, and we all really enjoyed it. And I actually am playing it with my KDM group, minus Matt Woods at the moment, RIP Matt Woods, but I'm sure you'll join us in Valhalla later on. But it's like, yeah, I just could sense the decision space in it and the group really enjoying it. So I really want to play more Elder Scrolls. I think it's great. I want to see where it goes, and I will report back later. So Dana and yourself, what are you fired up for this week?
I'm fired up for firstly, this weekend, I am going away on my ladies' board game weekend. So we head down to the Gold Coast. We stay in a beach house and we just play games. We get there on the Friday, and this time we're staying till the Monday, and we play games the whole time.
Don't you do this like almost every weekend?
No.
I feel like you're always going away. Right, Lauren, back me up here. Have you heard this before?
Well, it's probably 3 times a year.
Okay,
3 times a
fair.
year.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
I need to watch what I say because I'm going to be trying to crack an invite to one of these weekends, Adrian. So I'm gonna be careful with my words. But I have heard of a few big gaming nights or gaming weekends on Dana's part, but they sound glorious.
Yeah.
Do you have anything in particular lined up, Dana? Any
Well,
big games?
I'm not allowed to talk about it, but it's got the initials AE.
After Earth.
Andromeda's Edge.
Yes. So, yes. So hopefully I will be able to crack that out. I've actually already played it, another person's copy, and hopefully I'll be able to talk about it when I get back. And so I'm very excited to play that.
That's awesome.
Mm.
I am fired up about a reprint of a game that has been a grail game of mine for quite some time. It is a game that Sarah, former barbecue host, really enjoys. I believe at one point was in her top 10. It might be still, in fact, which is Witness. So that is the deduction game where everyone has one clue or a portion of the mystery and you're whispering it like a broken telephone around the circle to try and pass the information to one another and not get it muddied and keep it all in your head. So the original box has 60-something, 64, 62 cases in it, and they're coming out with new boxes that have only 8 cases, but still, I'll take what I can get. So there's I think 3 or so that are available for pre-order at Advent that I'm really excited to get my hands on.
It's an Essen release. I think I saw it on the Essen release list on BGG.
All right.
Yeah.
Is it the one that looks like Tintin?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. The art style is like that sort of Tintin style. Yeah, cool. Nice. Well, that's what we're all fired up for this week. Thanks very much for joining us. And thanks, Lauren.
Thank you so much for having me as always. I've had a blast. Thanks, Dana. Thanks, Adi.
Thanks, Dana.
Thank you.
And we shall see you on the next one. Play more games. Bye.
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 Right. I thought that was you too.
Yeah, people think I play like everyone thought all these people talking to me about Baldur's Gate, all these people talking to me about
Helldivers.
I don't even know what that is. But yeah, dude, so funny.